Greetings, fellow grave walkers, and welcome back to another video. And this one, talking about 10 tips and tricks that might help both old and new players of Shadow of War. And this is a remake and expanded version of the original tips and tricks video that didn't even have commentary. So, let's jump straight into it. Well, I'm sure you know or remember that you can double charge your might after a certain point. You may have forgotten that it actually does change a few abilities, like Raise Dead and Execution. You may have noticed the skill Brutal Execution and, like me, thought, well, it doesn't seem to really be doing anything. Well, that's because you need your might double charged with both bars full to be able to do it. It's a normal execution, but all orcs run away in fear. And the other one, Raise Dead, I was handily pointed out to that if you double charge your might and then use it, it will summon 6 Gondorian Wights instead of 3. So doubling the amount for a little bit more effort is pretty nice. It also makes the radius on Elven Light bigger, which is very, very useful in my opinion. All around, it's very good to remember that you can, in fact, double charge your might. Continuing to talk about Raise Dead, did you know you can ghost attacks using Raise Dead? If you hit the button when a red attack pops up, it'll go right through you and allow you to summon your Gondorian Wights or Raise Dead orcs around you. It is not something you're going to use too often, but it is something that can come in handy if you need it. Like, if you want to use Raise Dead anyway, you might as well wait for an orc to attack, pull it on them, and then use it so you're not wasting time. Not something super always gonna need to use it, but something fun and cool to know. Continuing to talk about might attacks, it might be wise to talk about ways you can build up might. So here's a good one. Most people often forget that brutalizing an orc is an amazing way of building up might. You can get both of your might bars filled with only 3 brutalizes. Now, usually the reason people don't do this is because, well, it takes you out of stealth. But brutalizing is very useful for building up your might. And you can also utilize brutalizations in another interesting way. So, if you put the life gem on your dagger and then go and brutalize an orc, you'll see you gain a lot of health from it. This is because a life gem on a knife does life drain. You restore, I think it's 20% health per attack with your knife. Meaning, if you brutalize, where you're getting multiple attacks in, it's a really good way of building back up your health. Beyond that, you can also then grab orcs and stab them, and stealth kills, especially using the chain ability, is amazing. So there's kind of a 2-for-1 right there. Next up, we have a very useful one. If you've ever dealt with defenders with metal shields and found them incredibly annoying, you'll be glad to know that as long as they're not poison-proof, you can do a very fun thing with Elven Light. You see, the Poison Blast variant of Elven Light goes right through defender shields, while the ice and fire ones don't. As you can see, right through his metal shield, and this works on the wood ones too. It is an amazing little trick for dealing with those particularly annoying defenders that just don't want to go down. Of course, this hinges on them not being immune to poison, but not being immune to poison isn't a very rare thing. You'll find plenty of orcs who are, making this a very useful tactic. And even if not against captains, it's also very useful against the wooden shield defenders, who can be kind of annoying in numbers if you are in the middle of, say, a siege or something. So, there is a good little tip for taking down defenders. I just want to pop in and say there was a weird audio bug at the beginning of the last part. I don't know what that was about, but it was too good of a take for me to replace it, so ignore the weird buzzing. Continuing with actually useful tips, did you know you can Talon Strike vertical? Yeah, most of us know that Talon Strike is amazing for getting around down or sometimes horizontally, but you can actually Talon Strike upwards. It has to be one of these wooden platforms that you'll see in every region, though most commonly in Cirith Ungol, which is where this trick is actually the most useful. You see, Cirith Ungol is just so vertical, especially with that one mineshaft area, that it's really annoying. So being able to just Talon Strike vertical all the way to the top is a very useful trick, because well, captains can spawn up there, and it is a wild pain when they do. So this little trick can help you get around regions just a little bit quicker instead of having to deal with climbing. Who needs to climb when you can Talon Strike? Another little secret trick that might be useful against orcs that aren't vigilant to stealth is being able to frighten them. Basically, what you have to go and do is turn off domination in your character sheet, and then get above and behind an orc and do an aerial drain. Doing this causes them to, quite literally, run away in fear. Why this happens? I don't know. It's definitely something that Monolith intended, but it's something that I didn't know about for a while, and I've talked about on 2 separate occasions now, but figured I might as well throw it in here because, well, it is a very useful tip, and it is quite a useful trick. Continuing with easily exploiting orc vulnerabilities, assassins and tricksters can be some of the most annoying little buggers in the entire game. They dodge, they roll, they duck, they weave, and they certainly get on my nerves when I'm trying to hit them in the head with a sword. But a fun little fact here, if you use your glaive, you can just completely stun lock tricksters and assassins. For some reason, the glaive completely stops them from ducking and weaving, probably because the aforementioned, it stuns them. That gives them little white particles over their head when you hit them, which ends up with them being completely locked in place and vulnerable to all of your attacks. This is a very good little tip, and I definitely recommend a double-charged glaive to make the most use out of this, but it is a really useful tip for taking down assassins and tricksters, because they give some of the most trouble of any class in the entire game. Next up is something that I myself completely forget I can do. Sliding and shoulder bashing. If you press left shift on keyboard, and I forgot what it is on controller, I think it's right trigger on controller, while sprinting, you will do a slide that knocks over orcs, including captains. Not Ologs though, they're too big to be knocked over. This is not super useful in all situations, but quite useful against hordes of orcs that you just want to knock over, or a particularly annoying captain who can be slid into to knock over, but may have a bit more of a strength and defense, like a defender who's immune to poison, meaning you can't do the little poison trick, or vigilant to stealth, meaning you can't make him terrified. So, all around a useful little tip, though do be careful to not get cut down by arrows and no chance. There's also another similar trick to this, which is shoulder bashing. If you press left control while sprinting on keyboard or left bumper on controller while sprinting, you will shoulder bash into an orc, knocking them over and putting them into the position to be ground executed or get picked up and stabbed. A very useful little tip, again, for captains that are immune to stealth or poison, like defenders, the annoying boys. And lastly, we have one that I'm pretty sure would be punishable by execution if I didn't talk about, which is the Mask of the Undying and Waters of Lorien. The Mask of the Undying is a mask that you get in the end game in the Shadow Wars, and is very useful in online sieges when you get to especially high ranks. It essentially makes the Waters of Lorien ability completely free, which is big because it usually takes focus. Making it free means no focus drain, and it lets you go straight through enemies, confusing them, and with certain builds, you can build up a ton of might doing this. And as a last honorable mention, I have the hired by email glitch, which I'm not going to attempt to show you because I just don't feel like wasting the time on that when I can tell you to just go watch Uruk's Hollow's video on it, because he explains the glitch and the steps to do it way better than I can. If you really want to hear me talk about it, I have a very old video about it now, but it was one of my first fully voiced over videos, and it's kinda low quality, so I'm not gonna subject you to that if you don't want to be. If you want to hear more about Hired by Email, go check out Uruk's Hollow. He explains it way better than I'm going to, but I had to put it as an honorable mention because it really is up there with being one of the best tricks that you can do. But as always, before the video is over, I now have a Fortnite supporter creator code, so if you play Fortnite and are buying anything in the item shop, use code WreckingBallBlue to support me. And with that, we've come to the end of this video, so if you did enjoy, consider hitting the like button down below because it tells me that you liked the video, and if you like what I do and want more of it, consider subscribing for more. And with that, I will see you all next time.